Welcome to Daniel Reviews. I'm Daniel Goodwin, and today we are looking at a question posed by one of our viewers on whether you can share a solar panel array between two Delta Pros. Let's dig into it. I've done previous videos on something similar to this in which I did successfully feed power to both two Delta Pros from a single battery bank, external battery bank. And that worked successfully, to my surprise. So when someone asked whether or not you can recharge two Delta Pros with a single solar array, well, my initial thought was, no, you can't do that. The inverters will fight each other and neither one will win. That's what I've heard from others and what my initial thought is. But I thought, well, maybe I should just put this to the test and find out myself. And that's what we're going to do. So to do this test, we're going to make use of my new Calfa 100 watt panels. I got 4 of them that I'll be wiring in series, and then I'll be connecting that array to 2 of my Delta Pros. Okay, we're going to try to take advantage of the sunlight while we have it. Right now we're in the shortest days of the year here in December, and especially in Iowa, means we have a very limited window for good solar production. So I've set up my Calfa 100 watt panels. Got an array, 400 watts here. I'm going to do some quick multimeter testing and then we'll get right into it. Okay, so we're running about a 20-foot cable on each side. We're just gonna take some quick measurements, see if we're getting what we should. Look at that. Hopefully that's showing up. 82.6, 0.8, kind of fluctuates a little bit, but 82, 83, so should be enough for the Delta Pros to pull from. I'll be interested to see how it handles it if it splits it. In terms of splitting, we're going to use these Y-branch splitters, so I can run these to each of the Delta Pros. So with the, just plug this in here and here, and now I can connect my Delta Pros to this using a MC4 to XT60 connector. That should work fine. I don't need, I don't need a lot of power because I only got 400 total watts, right? Like, so not that big of a deal. And then we'll use this one as well. Okay. All right, so from this, basically, you can see I now have 2 XT60, and well, this one's XT60i, but 2 XT60 connectors that can go into my 2 Delta Pros. If I haven't mentioned it before, I'll go ahead and say it now. I hate moving these Delta Pros around. They are heavy. Okay, we've got both Delta Pros out. I've got one of them connected, and I'm pulling about 315 watts from the 400 watt array in this morning sun, which isn't bad. Okay, you can see Delta Pro here, 311, 312 watts being pulled by the one. Let's plug in this one, which is not plugged in, see what happens. Yeah, you can see what's happening, right? Assume these numbers are coming through. The 2 Delta Pros are fighting each other for the full output of the panel. So you got one will pull almost the full 300, the other one's pulling a little bit, then the other one will take over and take the 300, and the other one won't get any. So it's not equally splitting like it is with with a battery bank. Okay, just for fun, I did go ahead and switch the connectors on each of the Delta Pros so that they're both XT60 connectors. Before I had an XT60i and an XT60. I didn't think it would matter because we're talking a very low powered solar array. But just for completeness, I did switch them so they're both XT60 connectors to see if that would have any impact on how the 2 Delta Pros handle the solar array. These are the 2 XT60 connectors, and it doesn't matter whether I use an XT60 or an XT60i. And you can see there's really not any difference. The 2 are still fighting it out. One will win and then the other one will take over. and it just doesn't really work. Okay, so we've successfully proved that you cannot power 2 Delta Pros with a single solar array. Or did we? All right, I'll freely admit this next part is going into a little bit of conjecture and a bit beyond my technical abilities. So with that caveat, let me talk about what I think is going on here. We only proved that you cannot power 2 Delta Pros with a small, relatively small 400 watt array. You can't do that. It's not going to work. We saw what happens. The 2 inverters fight for each other and neither gets the full 100 watts, and it just doesn't work very well. That we know. So the question is, why did it work fine in a previous video when I connected an external battery bank to both Delta Pros? Both started pulling approximately the same amount of wattage from the battery bank. Why is that different? Here's where I'm going to conjecture what I think is going on. With the battery bank, I had, it's relatively small, but it's producing at a pretty constant voltage. What I had was about 51 volts from a 50 amp hour battery bank. So as we know, the Delta Pro can only tap up to, at the high end, 15 amps of that. So you got 15 amps times the 50 volts, approximately, what was it, 800 watts, let's just call it that, to the first Delta Pro. And the next Delta Pro, the second Delta Pro, could take another 15 amps. The battery can support up, the particular batteries I have can support up to a 50 amp discharge. So the battery wasn't maxed out. It just supplied the max that the Delta Pro 1 was going to take from it, and then the Delta Pro 2 took the max that it wanted from it. So both Delta Pros were able to drink from the same pool, no problem, because there was more than enough amps available to feed both of them. That's why it worked for the battery bank. It definitely did not work for the solar panel, because obviously, 400 watts, there was, I don't even know, probably 5 amps or something like that. So it wasn't even close to filling up one. It certainly couldn't spill over and fill the other one. So what does that tell us? It tells us that if you had a big enough array of solar panels, and you certainly would want to be doing a lot of stringing these together in parallel so that you massively increase the amount of amps available, you could feed both Delta Pros, because if the Delta Pro 1 drew 15 amps from, let's say you had a 30 amp solar panel array, then the Delta Pro 2 could take the remaining 15 amps. This is again my conjecture. I don't have enough panels right now and time to put this together to work, but I believe it would. And if you want to go and test that out on your own, you're certainly welcome to. What you're really going to need to do is to get enough panels that you can have, like, again, 30 to 40 amps of usable PV solar input, and connect them to your 2 Delta Pros. And I suspect that both Delta Pros will draw from that, because one Delta Pro cannot, maximize all of that input. So it'll take up to 15 amps, and there'll still be another 15 amps or more available for the other Delta Pro. So I think that's totally a possibility. Now, would you want to do that? I don't know. I would lean towards the mindset of no, that's probably not very effective, but it might be. If you just want, here's where you could perhaps get some benefit, is that you would only have to run one cable, essentially close to your Delta Pros. So you could cut out, 50% of your cable length by doing a single array with one cable running into your, maybe your house or wherever you got your Delta Pros. That might be a benefit for doing it this way. I suspect running all of those panels, or a lot of panels, in parallel so that you have dramatic amperage is probably more hassle than it's worth. One, you're going to have to start thinking about getting fuses and everything, and what kind of cable you've got. Can it support 30 plus, 40 plus amps? You've got a whole different calculation to be doing, and I'm not sure that it's worth that overhead. But I do suspect it is possible to feed 2 Delta Pros from a single solar array, provided that solar array is producing at least 30 amps, if not more. And then, of course, the voltage being within the Delta Pro's, you know, input specifications. All right, well, I hope this video was interesting. It was kind of fun to make. I learned a little bit along the way. If not, you may have already known this, but at least it's proved and it's on video now, so we know that, you know, some of the limitations there. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.